Yo-ho, a pirate's life for me. We suddenly in pillage and pieces of bait and ships and... Oh, I love this ride. You know the little dog with the keys in his mouth? He's real, man. I swear I saw him breathing.
What are you talking about?
No, we don't say booty unless we're talking about gold. We don't look at chests unless the treasure holds. We say yo-ho, but we don't say ho, 'cause ho is disrespectful, yo.
It is 5:24 p.m. on Thursday, May 25th, 2017, and I'm on my way to the AMC Universal City Walk 19 in beautiful Universal City, California, to catch a 7 p.m. screening of Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. I'm some jerk with a camera, and welcome to One Movie Later, where I compare and contrast my preconceptions and postconceptions of movies in theaters now. Pirates of the Caribbean has become one of those movie franchises that the YouTube film critic intelligentsia has decided is okay to just kind of dismiss. It doesn't get a lot of outright hatred like the DC Extended Universe or the Michael Bay Transformers films, but it's not really all that celebrated along the lines of the Marvel Cinematic Universe or Star Wars. It seems like whenever a new Pirates movie comes out, most YouTube film critics really can't be bothered to say anything more than, they're making another one?
Ugh, they're making a fifth one?
Who asked for this? And I gotta say, if I'm being brutally honest, if I wasn't such a huge theme park geek, I might be saying that right along with them. The ride Pirates of the Caribbean is obviously one of the most celebrated rides of any kind in the history of theme parks. And it has been ever since it opened 50 years ago in 1967. And when they were building Disney World in Florida, they thought, well, you know, Florida's pretty close to the actual Caribbean, so it won't really be exotic enough, so we won't bother building pirates here. But they got flooded with guest complaints that they didn't have pirates. It was that popular. So they immediately started building one in Florida, which opened in 1973, but they didn't really have the budget to make it as good as it was in California, so to this day, Florida has to settle for the smaller diet pirates, basically. But the ride remained very popular and iconic for decades thereafter, and in 2003, Walt Disney Pictures was in a weird spot. Eisner was kind of on his way out, but he was still struggling to prove he still had relevance, and in kind of a last-ditch attempt to do something new, he got on a jag of saying, right, we're adapting all our theme park attractions as movies now. That's what we're doing. Within literally 16 months of each other, 3 different movies came out in theaters based on theme park attractions. The Country Bears, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, and The Haunted Mansion. And when the very notion of basing a movie off of a theme park attraction started spreading around as a thing, a lot of critics kind of had their nose in the air about it. Like, oh, theme park, what are they gonna do? Base a movie off the gift shop? And I never understood that mentality. I am a firm believer that you can make a good film out of anything. They just usually choose not to. The Country Bears and the Haunted Mansion movie seemed to prove those naysayers right, but then there was Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, which, of those 3 movies, was the one that Eisner wanted to make the least, strictly because it was too damned expensive. In fact, Eisner came this close to shutting down production, and Jerry Bruckheimer talked him out of it. He basically sat him down and said, look, do you want to make these Penny Ante, Max Keebler's Big Move Disney Channel movies for the rest of your career, or do you want to actually try to compete with Lord of the Rings? And lo and behold, it became a huge smash hit at a time when Disney really needed one that didn't come from Pixar. Even the critics were like, wow, this movie is really good. How'd that happen? Or, you know, my favorite backhanded compliment, it's better than it has any right to be. Fuck off. And I still say that first Pirates movie is a genuinely great film. Not just a good one, a great one. And for one glorious film, theme park fans like me were justified, and it proved you could make a great film out of a theme park attraction. Now, I'm not gonna explain exactly why I think the first Pirates movie is so good, because my friend Stephan Krosecz already did that in a really extensive video. I'll put the link in the description. Go watch it. It's almost an hour long, but it's worth it, and it goes into exactly why the first Pirates movie works so damn well. Before long, Disney announced that they were working on 2 Pirates Pirates sequels, which would come out in 2 consecutive summers. And that, of course, led us to believe, oh, it's going to be like Back to the Future or The Matrix, where they're planning this big, elaborate mythos. In 2006, to promote the release of Dead Man's Chest, they added Jack Sparrow to the ride, where he remains to this day. Dead Man's Chest came out in 2006, At World's End came out in 2007, and they weren't bad movies necessarily, but it did kind of seem like the writers were just making it up as they went along. And as it happens, they kind of were. We later found out that they were literally writing script pages the day before they were going to be shot, so, yeah, that's never a great sign. As opposed to the first movie, which had a really solid screenplay and a really well-constructed story, the second and third ones just kind of meandered. And of course, in 2011, they released a fourth one, On Stranger Tides, but by that point, Jerry Bruckheimer's power within Disney had kind of dwindled. Before Pirates, he had made The Rock and Con Air and Armageddon for Disney, and after Pirates, he made National Treasure, and all those were pretty big hits. But then came G-Force, and The Prince of Persia, and The Sorcerer's Apprentice, and all 3 were huge flops. And On Stranger Tides is a bit of an odd duck because it's as much a reboot as a straight-up sequel. I mean, sure, Johnny Depp is back as Jack Sparrow, and Jeffrey Rush is back as Barbossa, and Gibbs is back, and there's another Keith Richards cameo, but Will and Elizabeth are not in it, and the mythos surrounding the first 3 movies really doesn't come into play at all. Basically, On Stranger Tides was their chance to launch a new trilogy of pirate movies, and they made a few missteps, I think. I mean, first of all, they had another romantic couple to be sort of the straight men to Jack Sparrow, but they were way too similar to Will and Elizabeth to not suffer by comparison. And also, because it was trying to sort of reboot the series, but also try to top the first 3 movies, it was kind of a movie at odds with itself. Like, they couldn't just throw Blackbeard into the proceedings and trust that Blackbeard alone would be enough to make it interesting. They had to give Blackbeard all this supernatural chicanery, which really didn't work at all. Plus, these films have always lived and died off of Johnny Depp's charisma as Captain Jack Sparrow, and the public was starting to get tired of him. As evidenced by the fact that when they released The Lone Ranger 2 years later, it was one of the biggest flops in Disney history. So now here we are in 2017, and Disney is not the same company that it was in 2003. Disney has Star Wars, they have Marvel, they have Frozen and Wreck-It Ralph and Zootopia. Every film that comes out of feature animation is a huge hit. They're remaking all their classic animated films in live action inexplicably, and they're all huge hits. Disney really profoundly doesn't need the Pirates franchise anymore, so yeah, it is kind of weird that there's a 5th one coming out in 2017. I mean, maybe they just wanted it to coincide with the 50th anniversary of the ride, but they really haven't been plugging the 50th anniversary of the ride enough. I really hope this movie is good. I really do. I hope it proves my skepticism wrong, but every Pirates of the Caribbean movie has been at least slightly worse than the one before. And the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expect different results. I mean, if nothing else, Javier Bardem plays the bad guy in this, and he's always great. And of all people, Paul McCartney has a cameo in this movie. Okay. I mean, I love Paul McCartney, obviously, but I'm pretty sure this is the first time he's ever played anyone but himself in a movie. And of course, I should probably bring up the elephant in the room and the reason why Johnny Depp is really not the beloved icon he used to be. Although granted, you wouldn't know it from all the footage of the excited guests when he crashed the ride itself. And by the way, that's apparently not the first time he's done that. There's been reports and rumors of him doing that a few times in the past, just on isolated incidents, basically whenever he felt like it. And it would always be in the jail scene. He'd pretend to be a robot at first, but then go, "No, seriously, you gotta get me out of here." He probably beat his wife. Personally, I believe in separating the artist from the art unless it's impossible to do so. And everyone has that threshold at a different place. So if you absolutely refuse to support this movie because you refuse to support Johnny Depp because you're disgusted by his alleged behavior, I completely understand and I completely sympathize, and I hope you'll join me for the rest of this vlog regardless. If you're on the fence about it and the abuse allegations aren't quite a deal breaker for you, and you liked some of the other Pirates films but are a little bit iffy on this one, well, I'll try to review this film as fairly as I can. Drink up, me hearties, yo ho.
Yo ho, yo ho, a pirate's life for me.
Alright, introduce yourselves.
I am Haley, aka Trickster Bell, and I do videos on things. Watch my Labyrinth video.
Yep.
I'm Luke Ski, and since today, May 25th, 2017, is an important day in pop culture history, I am wearing my Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men Tell No Tales t-shirt that says RR on it.
I'm Zach Hurst. I'm Captain Arl, King of the SS Artifice on my show, The Voyages.
And thank you for a second time for coming down to Earth to be part of this vlog, by the way.
It was either this or Space Pirates.
And on his third consecutive Memorial Day weekend, one movie later, here's...
Hi, I'm Rosen. I am working on a show that actually should be coming out in the next couple weeks.
Alright, and yeah, you were on the Tomorrowland and Alice Through the Looking Glass. So just every Memorial weekend I have you back. We just saw Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Well, that sucked.
I am confused.
The dead men should have kept not telling tales.
I am very confused. I don't know what I want anymore.
Here's... Okay, let's start by talking about what we liked about it.
Yes.
I thought Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow was the funniest, most engaging Jack Sparrow since the first one.
Really?
I did. I thought... there were a couple of standout sequences in particular where I thought he was the best he's been in years. I loved Jeffrey Rush as Barbossa.
Yes.
He's always great. I loved the new Karina, the new female character they introduced. There were some nice visual flourishes here and there, and there was one standout sequence in particular towards the beginning that I really loved that we'll talk about in spoiler territory. And beyond that, I was just bored.
Yeah.
I was bored out of my skull because it just felt like the same damn story all over again. It's like there's a MacGuffin that exists somewhere, and we gotta go find the MacGuffin. And once we find the MacGuffin, all the things will happen. But then the bad guy gets the MacGuffin, and it's on and then
It's not just that. It's that the characters are going there, and literally nothing changes about them. You know, the thing about the first movie that works so well is that Will and Elizabeth, and even Jack to a certain extent, have character arcs.
Yeah.
They do not in this movie. These are the pirates that don't do anything. This guy's like, I want to save my dad. Girl's like, I want to live up to the promise I think my dad wanted. Jack's like, I want to keep being Jack Sparrow. Barbossa's like, I want to not die.
Again. Because he already died in the first
Yeah.
movie. Once characters literally die and you can bring them back to life, how are you going to
Once there are
establish...
ways to do that,
Yeah.
how do you give death
establish
finality?
that death means anything?
I mean, in Our World's End, it meant something when Davy Jones died because that was the death of a god. That was shot with impact, and that had impact.
We refer to that in the cartoon industry as the stakes.
Right.
It needs to be, what are the stakes that make it important? You know, it's like, oh, well, if death doesn't matter, then there are no stakes.
This one is more coherent and cohesive than On Stranger Tides.
I will agree with that.
There are no, like, meandering dialogues about the nature of good and evil and the redemption of man. There's no multiple choice overpowered villain. Too many accessories, Blackbeard, honey. And it wasn't just Jack and Will and Elizabeth Light, these two new whippersnappers that just kept backsassing their elders. They had some personality.
I would argue that the new male lead is kind of Diet Will, but the female lead is not Diet Elizabeth. She's a whole different...
He's not as Diet Will as the missionary dude in On Stranger Tides.
Yeah,
That was the LaCroix of Will.
This was slightly better than On Stranger Tides, I will give it that, and it was shorter.
Yes.
It's the shortest pirate movie.
It had more pandering things to me as a Pirates of the Caribbean fan.
Yeah.
So.
Every Pirates movie up to this was like 2.5 hours long. This was like 2 hours 10, I think.
Yeah,
So still
like
too long.
it had.
I agree.
I liked that it was better than On Stranger Tides, and the two non-Jack leads were a bit cuter and snappier. On Stranger Tides just did away with everything that people loved about the original trilogy. Like, I know I'm sounding like a Star Wars fanboy right now, but damn it, it's my moment. Like, the Pearl's gone, Will and Elizabeth are gone, like, everything's gone, but now we get some stuff back, and I'm like, okay, at least I'm being pandered to. At least I'm being pandered to.
But to what point and purpose? I mean,
Now,
If this is truly, like they claimed, the final Pirates movie of this franchise, it's interesting, you know, how they kind of went back to the beginning with this whole notion of this crew of cursed pirates, but instead of being like the rotten skeleton types, it's like they're ghosts, and they use motion capture to do like these 3D, you know, ghost pirates where large sections of them are just completely gone.
that was cool. That was a really cool effect.
Yeah, and yet they're still running around like in complete 3D. It's like
you just saw a
that's really-
torso floating across the screen at one point.
There's one guy who, like, all he had left was a shoulder and a hand or something like that. It was...
Yeah.
So yeah, so
It was
it's like...
trippy.
That was very nifty visually, and I also like that all their hair looks like it's
Yeah,
underwater.
like they're still
Yeah.
drowning in a way. I liked that.
We saw some mocap young Johnny Depp.
Yes!
Where he looked like he did in 21 Jump
That was
Street.
pretty good, actually.
That was actually a really compelling scene for
Disney
me.
was just like, hey, can we borrow some Marvel guys real quick?
That technology is starting to get pretty good. You know, between this and Kurt Russell in Guardians, this is...
Like, at first, I legitimately thought they cast just a Johnny Depp lookalike.
No,
that
that was definitely him.
Well, it helps that Johnny Depp himself has not aged considerably.
That's true.
That is true.
I think the comedy lands probably as well as any of the other Pirates movies did.
Yeah, I agree
it's
with
mostly concentrated to about the first third, which is part of the reason why I think it gets boring by the end of it, is because the things that, like the comedy, whenever things started to slow down, at least kept the movie going, but it's mostly gone by the end of the first act, and so by the time and that's part of the problem. But you know, when it is trying to be funny, 9 times out of 10 the jokes work.
I might lower that to 8 out of 10, but some of the jokes just fell completely flat for me, especially the ones I could see coming. Now, your case is interesting because you actually haven't seen any of the Pirates movies since the original.
Yep, I have not seen 2, 3, or 4, so I wanted to go into this without that knowledge to see what I could gather from an outsider's perspective. And what I could gather was, you said this was the shorter one?
Yeah.
This did not feel short, but...
Well...
But I
You
did
haven't
like...
seen Outworld Zone.
Yeah, well, the first one feels like the shortest because it's so consistently awesome.
Yeah.
But no, you want to see a movie that feels long, watch the third or the fourth one. It's,
And the third one is my second favorite one, and it's really long.
Without going too much into spoilers, stuff we didn't like.
I am less impressed with Jack this go-round. Our friend Dave said this at the preview at Disneyland. He sounds less lucid than ever before. Johnny was not listening as much to his director, and that maybe is just because I watched a lot of Johnny Depp films over the course of my fangirl life, but I can tell when he's doing his own thing rather than listening to his director. And of Johnny the Depp the man, I only have to say one thing, which is, you have become the man you were afraid to be on 21 Jump Street.
I found Javier Bardem astoundingly uninteresting. Like, he's a great actor, and he's done... I didn't think he was...
It was getting into Marvel villain territory.
Yeah, I didn't think he was capable of a bad performance until I saw this. Like, all he's doing is the bad guy cackle the whole movie.
What I would argue is, instead, the only interesting things about this character come from Javier Bardem, not from the script. He is doing his best to make
they're letting the effects make the character.
Yeah.
Not the character make the character. Especially with the things that happened in the third act, they were building up to these big character moments, but they didn't put in the work in the first half to make those land. Like, I should have been caring more about Barbossa. I should have been caring more about Jack, but I didn't.
part of the problem is there's just too many characters in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, there's like 7 protagonists and 2 antagonists.
There's
and
factions in this movie.
all of the protagonists, all 7 of them, each have like 2 subplots attached to one of the other characters. The secondary antagonist, they get to a point where they just have to write him out of the movie. Because they're like, they wrote themselves into a corner, and so they literally just write, and he's gone.
The first Pirates movie had even more characters.
Yeah, and
because it had the Barbossa's crew and the crew that Will and Jack assembled, and all those characters, but they all felt like real people in a way, even though it was this fantastical setting. I mean, for God's sake, in the first movie, even Norrington felt like he had a soul. Like he was the antagonist, but you saw why he was doing what he was doing. You saw his motivations. Here, it's like
Norrington's lieutenants had a soul in the first place.
This wasn't just diet Norrington. This was like water dilute. These were just bare bones caricatures of we must arrest these pirates and these witches.
The sad thing is, it's played by David Wyndham, who was Faramir in Lord of the Rings. Like, I recognize the actor, and he was given nothing.
There's no Chekhov's gun. Nothing is set up in the first act, only to pay off in the third act. It's just kind of a random this on top of this on top of this.
That's really my biggest problem with the movie, is just a series of things happening.
Yeah,
and even there were
some things that are motivated.
Series.
We're seeing flat characters and good actors give bad performances.
Yeah.
That ties back to a bad director.
This is not Gore Verbinski, and I've said this before in other places, not on camera, but Gore Verbinski is an underrated studio director. He knows how to he got those amazing performances at the first Pirates, and he knows how to tell a lot with very little visual time. The 4th and the 5th one, I am holding up to the end of the 3rd one, which everyone thought was going to be the last Pirates movie,
right. So
nothing feels as complete an end as the end to At World's End. So everything that's felt tacked on, I'm like, this better be so good. But it's not. Like, the 3rd one felt like we are taking on the end of piracy itself. Now pirates are freedom fighters. So the entire function of pirates, like, as a concept used in this series of films, should have changed. Like, I felt like Jack should have been just this relic that there are no other pirates, because he's just managed to live that long, and like we should have been looking at like an after the end situation. Like that would have been more impactful.
Yeah.
Like, but they want to draw out this kind of golden age of piracy thing longer than its natural lifespan. And in order to be like, oh, look, there can be more adventures, yada, yada, yada. In Pirates 3, they went all the way to the goddess of the sea, and then, oh no, we're making more Pirates movies, what do? And so they're ridiculously overpowering these villains when they really should have drawn back for the 4th one and for this one. You've already done the world-ending thing. You can't go further. Johnny Depp didn't want the screenplay with the female villain, but
that's true.
Dark Shadows flopped.
But I feel like what really happened was Johnny Depp went, okay, so the news around me and women is really bad right now.
Let me make it worse.
Can we not really have a scene of me literally fighting a woman?
Well,
that's just gonna spark something we don't want.
So, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Good movies.
It's not the betrayal on Stranger Tides, what's fellow fangirls. It's not gonna hurt as much, but it's not. It's not what it was.
Yeah, I can't honestly recommend it. I mean, maybe as a rental, because it's not without its charm. It's not without a few good moments, but Don't make us watch a 6th one of these. It's just, let it die.
Speaking as a representative from the land of guy who likes everything, I definitely liked it more than any of the other people here, I think. Maybe you liked it at least.
I will watch it again, which I won't say about Stranger Tides.
Like, if I had seen this movie without you guys, I would have walked out there thinking like, oh, that was fun, there was a good laugh in there. I wouldn't have walked away like, thanks movie for being dumb, I would have been like, hey, it's a fun ride. My gauge for how much I like a movie is, if I really like it, I typically see it twice in the theater, and I don't feel a strong need to see this movie a second time. I'm basically saying, for anyone watching out there whose standards aren't as high as the rest of the people who just want to go see a dumb, fun Hollywood movie, summertime, yay, popcorn. Yeah.
Go
see Guardians. Go see Guardians 2 again. That's a better.
When Guardians 2 is sold out, you can see this. It's alright.
I hesitate to call it a bad movie as much as it is just a boring one.
Yeah.
It is very formulaic. It has a lot of emotionally manipulative moments, but at the same time, it has some funny moments. Here's the thing: I saw On Stranger Tides and immediately forgot it. Like it was gone. The only things I remember right now are because our friend Stephan put it in a video that I saw last week, and he makes them funny. But I still remember things. I remember some things I enjoyed and some things I didn't, which is more than I could say for On Stranger Tides. If you do, rent it or something like that, you won't be wasting your money there. I feel like if you see it in California where movie tickets are $20, that's a bit steep for a movie like this.
And if your girlfriend texts during it, you could sue her.
Yeah, it's okay. I wouldn't go out of my way to see it, but I also wouldn't avoid it if you're
like if you have some friends that really want to go see it.
Yeah.
You don't need to openly object to it.
Yeah.
It's not the worst thing in the world, but
Guardians 2 is still in theaters.
Yeah.
Just go see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Transformers: The Last Night is going to be the worst thing in the world.
Yes,
The sad part is, it's not even the worst Arthurian movie this year.
What should Disney have done with the Pirates franchise instead of the 4th and 5th movies? Animated series. Why didn't they?
Totally.
Because here's the thing: how much time have we actually seen Captain Jack be the captain of the Black Pearl and do things?
Next to none.
Yeah, it's like that would have been an excellent animated series. They could have. There's tons of avenues they could have gone down. They could have gone to Poseidon. They could have gone to Neptune.
They wouldn't have needed Johnny Depp. They could have gotten Johnny Depp.
They could have set up all the stuff that they want paid off so badly in these movies.
Or, let's say you still want to keep making movies. Just have them follow a different set of pirates. That's the thing. It's called Pirates of the Caribbean, not Captain Jack Sparrow's Wacky Fun Time Show.
Yeah.
I would watch that, though.
Should we just go into spoilers?
Let's go friggin' spoilers!
Okay.
They did not fridge Elizabeth Swann. Thank goodness. That's all I wanted.
She was barely
That's all I wanted. I just didn't want her to die. And she didn't die. I'm okay.
Does she even have a line of dialogue?
No!
Not a single one.
But she did not die off screen to further Will and Henry's man pain. And that is a victory for me.
They flew Keira Knightley out to the set for one day so she could run towards Will and...
I'm okay. That's all I want.
Because this is a Disney movie, and mothers don't last too long in Disney movies.
Yeah. I thought I heard a little Will Jr. or Henry. Sorry, his name was Henry. Henry said to Will that his mom had a stroke. I thought that was what I heard, and so I was just...
Strokes didn't exist in the 80s.
Which that was why I was confused. Wait, what?
Well, she didn't speak, so I mean, for all we know. In the 2 scenes where Orlando Bloom shows up and he does speak, he seemed really wooden to me.
Yeah.
Surprisingly so, because he's a good actor, or at least he was before.
I was questioning what happened.
In the 3rd movie, it is explicitly seen that when Will Turner takes over captainship of the Dutchman, everyone loses their barnacliness, and the Dutchman turns into a normal ships again, because a good man who's willing to ferry the souls of the dead is now captain of the Dutchman, and it's a curse, but he's a good man. So Will Turner is now Barnacle as captain of the Dutchman. I'm like, no.
Did sailing change him? Is he no longer a good man anymore?
Because it implied that Davy Jones had the squiddies because he was derelict to his duty, and he did not fear the souls of the dead who died at sea.
They could have at least had, some of his hair starting to turn into, that tentacle shape. At least do something with it. Don't just...
Instead of just, a few barnacles. Because
don't just make him look like
pretty.
an elf with zits.
Elf with Zits is my Ed Sheeran cover band.
They set up things where, you're supposed to feel something when they say this ominous line about ruling the seas. But I'm like, I have no idea who you are. Am I supposed to know who you are? Was that scene cut?
In the first movie, the British Navy has to fight off these undead pirate skeletons.
They are so outmatched.
And they see that they are skeletons. A bunch of them still survive, so there's enough people on that ship to confirm, oh yeah, we were attacked by pirate skeletons. That's a thing now.
That's a thing that exists.
And the second movie had the giant squid, and the third movie had the giant calypso, and a lot of witnesses who survived both of those.
Not just pirate witnesses, but Navy witnesses.
And yet, in every single goddamn one of these movies, like, no one believes in ghosts, and no one believes in supernatural shit. It's like...
To be fair, Hermione's great-grandmother was the one saying most of the I don't believe in ghost stuff.
And everyone thinks she's a witch?
Just because this woman is very actually smart, they immediately assume she's a witch.
I liked that running gag, but I felt it needed a bigger payoff. Like, she needed to be the one to wield the sea for a good solid minute.
I think in delivery that could have been way better than it was.
Yeah.
As it is, I think it just came off as heavy-handed.
Because there's another witch in there for no freaking reason.
What the hell was up with that?
What was Sinead O'Connor doing there?
A hybrid between Sinead O'Connor and the Enchantress from Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
It looked like they saw the Mummy trailer that happened before they went like,
she's an exposition machine.
Exposition and deliver MacGuffins, because she gets the compass.
How does she get the compass? Who cares?
Hey,
I
what do you
have
mean
my
Tilda Swinton is available?
Let's take a brief break from the negativity and talk about the one scene in the film we all liked.
Yeah.
And that was the first action scene of the movie.
Yes, the literal bank heist.
Literally, they steal a bank. Not just the money in the bank, but the entire bank. And it's like...
Actually, they kind of leave the money in the bank.
They scatter it all about. And it's just...
I do like that joke that by the time they get it where they got it,
that was
that was a great joke.
And I love the reveal that Jack Sparrow was in the safe.
In the vault.
Because, was it just me, or did his body language look a lot like the animatronic at the end of the ride?
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah, and in both cases surrounded by gold coins.
Yes.
So and Jack's dialogue was really funny in that scene. Like that scene gave me hope. I thought, oh, maybe this will be a fun movie, and then no.
What's the best way to introduce Jack Sparrow? Oh, he's drunk, asleep in a safe next to someone else's wife.
Yes.
The bank owner's wife.
That personifies his character so much in the span of about 30 seconds.
He has to remind himself, like, who he is and why he's there. And he
Why
has
am
no
I doing
idea.
this?
That's the first thing he does.
also
That's such a strong character introduction.
Yeah.
Which, like, even really good movies don't do that all the time.
They dragged the house through the streets, in the this Buster Keaton 1940s.
Yes, it was so
I kept thinking, like, this is a Buster Keaton meets Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
If they just released a series of Pirates of the Caribbean live-action shorts like that, then that's how you continue the series. That's how you keep... But if they went like the Toy Story route and just made a bunch of short subjects about Jack Sparrow, that would be... I mean, they might not be able to make as much money off it, I suppose, but like... Artistically, that would be the place to take this character, because Jack Sparrow is kind of a walking cartoon.
I just realized the best way that they could have included that scene later on, it would have made the ending that much better. There's a giant crevice of water that so Moses basically went, move!
Yeah, it was...
Move exactly 5 feet on that.
There can be miracles!
And so to fish Jack and Barbossa and everyone else out, they drop the anchor down, but all the other ghost pirates have swum down to try and hit them. What would have been great is if they had pulled the safe out again and shot it.
That would have been great! That would have been a great callback and a way to, it's
Because clearly they couldn't get that thing off the ship.
Yeah, they never did get it off the ship.
They bring a possession thing out of fucking nowhere.
Oh my god,
And it goes nowhere.
It
comes from nowhere. It goes
It's
nowhere.
literally just there to let them have a fight scene, like a climactic fight scene, because they wrote themselves into a corner.
And about the trident. Oh, okay, so it's the most powerful MacGuffin in the world. Whoever wields it can literally control the sea.
And we see that for 5 seconds.
Yeah, and then you can destroy it with just a simple sword.
Not only that,
it doesn't even have to be a special sword, just any old sword.
This huge MacGuffin that they spend the entire movie talking about, and then they break it.
It doesn't even need to be the sword of Gryffindor. Just any old sword.
What makes me mad is it's not just any old sword. It looked like you could just break it anywhere.
Yeah, it looked like if you dropped it, it would break.
It looked like it was made of coral.
You see what the trident does, and you're how is that ruling the seas?
That's such a dumb MacGuffin.
You know what? I'll give it this much. At least it's actually a trident, unlike Aquaman's quindent, whatever he's got now.
Aquaman's rake.
His Aquaman's dessert fork.
There's this big, orange core thing. You got the 3 prongs, but there's a big orange core in the middle, like that. But he breaks like 2 of the forks of the trident off.
And the entire thing's going.
And the whole build up to something just to have it break is a good story beat if you put in the time and actually give it a moment to breathe. But there was no moment to breathe at this point.
It's like, the fact that they actually mentioned Poseidon. They had Calypso, they had Davy Jones, who's basically Satan. They had, all this other supernatural bullshit. It's like...
are they going there?
What's the only way you can top all that?
Because that's an actual thing in sailors' mythology, is you go back far enough, what if actual British sailors, do this performance thing once they cross the equator, where you crown someone as Neptune, and that's a thing, and I thought they were tapping into some real mythology there.
Yeah, what if Neptune or Poseidon had shown up to be the big bad? That would have been amazing.
The lawful evil factions did not need to be there. The Spanish didn't need to be there, non-stranger tides, and the Navy just didn't need to be there here. We should have left them when we left the island.
Well, red coats, more like red shirts, am I right?
Oh, it's a pirate. Oh, it's a witch.
Stormtrooper level
I thought that was not in the action way, but in these are just forces of heteronormativity that are annoying, and we just keep having to shove them out of the way. I thought they were going for farce. I thought this was going to get Monty Python levels of upper class twit. This is so silly, but then they didn't, and then David Wyndham decided to get a Napoleon complex and say, "Oh, the British will have the power of the sea." I'm like, no, the British Navy was the most powerful navy. For 2 centuries, you already have the power of the sea because history's on your side, and then the censorship ate him. If it had been played like a joke, it would have been hilarious.
We're about to get Jack Sparrow, and then behind him the giant comes up and eats them. And I'm like, that was so clearly because we wrote too many characters and we didn't have a way of getting rid of them anyway that was
Which is why it would have worked better as a joke.
Well, what I feel like they should have done was, now that they've been swallowed by the ghost ship, have them come back with the ghost crew. It would have at least given, more people things to do.
How is it that 5 people in this room are solving your story problems, movie? How are we making it more interesting than you were able to make with, $200 million?
The new girl they bring in the movie is revealed to be Barbossa's daughter.
Oh, God, I hated this!
And it is so clearly setting up we're going to manipulate you emotionally in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, as soon as it was Barbossa's dead. As soon as he got the cut on the arm, it was nowhere.
Nothing.
See, I knew Barbossa was dead from the trailers because that was just that's how the trailers were insinuating. I know where this is going. My problem with
he died already. Who cares?
What does that matter?
Well, that's part of it is. But
couldn't they just bring him back again? What the hell?
Calypso, we need help again.
Yeah, it's such a forced idea. That he has never once brought up even this woman.
This is what I'm talking about.
I thought it was out of goddamn
This is what I'm talking about. They had payoffs for arcs that were not set up. This should have been heartbreaking. They just found each other and then they lose each other. But they rushed all of that development into that last bit, and it's no, you didn't set it up enough. Now I don't care.
I thought they were building it up that she would be revealed to be Jack's daughter. Because
I'm actually more pleased it's Barbossa than Jack, because Jack was a little pervy.
But here's why I think it might have been that she was Jack's father in earlier drafts. Her last name is Smith, and in the first movie,
what do you say to 3 shillings? And we forget the name.
Welcome to Port Royal, Mr. Smith.
Let's say the movie wasn't going to go for this emotional heartstring beat. It was just going to be a fun adventure thing, and so it would be comedy wall to wall. Having her still be Jack's daughter, but Barbossa thinks it's his, ties back to Jack sleeping with the other guy's wife. It would make Jack possibly even less likable, but at the same time, depending on how you play it out, it would I think it would be really funny.
And speaking of making Jack less likable, what about the fucking scene where he's almost forced to marry an ugly chick?
That was awkward. That was my favorite.
It felt really mean.
Yeah.
It was just so mean-spirited.
Was it referencing the show 'em your larboard side dear thing?
I guess a little.
Why was that there?
If that was meant to be a reference to that scene, then there should have been a pretty redhead there. Just red. I want the red. They completely lost touch with the fact that this was based on a specific ride.
Remember the last time that 3 different factions got stuck on an island and had to talk things out before they could figure out what to do next? That involved a sword fight on a mill wheel.
Was there a single sword fight in this movie?
No.
There was like half of one.
Yeah, wait.
It's getting old and you couldn't train the new guy.
If you want to make a swashbuckling movie,
have some swashes to buckle.
Swashes have to buckle.
There was that scene where the figurehead came to life.
Well, that was...
What the fuck even was that?
That came out of nowhere, but it looked cool, so I was willing to forgive it in the moment.
It was like a big old golem that just...
It was like the giant conquistador ladies jumping between the cannons. That was cool. Like a cool idea. Like I like the idea of that fight scene, even if it was really murky and it was hard to see.
There was the masthead on the front of the ship.
Yeah, I get, but why did it come alive? I don't get...
Why zombie sharks? It's just fun!
Zombie shark is
actual ghost sharks! Oops, ghost shark!
There were also like ghost crows.
Ghosts like seagulls.
Really cool.
And,
and that was... okay, at least that was set up.
Yeah,
there are ghost animals.
The figurehead thing belonged to a different pirate movie. That's what happened.
He's got the black pearl in a bottle.
Yeah, that's left over from 4.
Oh, okay.
That is left over from 4.
That was really not clear.
And apparently, like, you need Blackbeard's sword in order to
which
function.
Barbossa had.
They explained that really fast. What the fuck was Paul McCartney doing in this movie?
Yes!
This scene was completely pointless. He served no function in the
Big
plot.
Lipped pirate.
I thought it was Keith Richards.
It was...
No, Keith Richards had a point. He had a story point
He
in his cameo. Paul McCartney just wandered on the set one day. I have half a mind he just bought his costume at the Party City and just wandered on the set.
That scene was so pointless, like I was actually a little angry about it.
It was the Michael Jackson in Men in Black 2 of Beatles cameos.
But see, that was like in the background.
Yeah, he's singing Maggie May from Let It Be.
Is he?
Yeah, he's singing a Beatles song. It was so clearly a Because We Can cameo.
Because the big A-list star asked to be in the movie.
At the very least,
said
with Michael Jackson, there's a context to the joke. Here, there was just like...
Why would Paul McCartney even be a pirate? I mean,
I don't know.
Paul McCartney is not the Keith Richards of the Beatles.
Yeah, because
he's kind of the opposite.
Yeah, he's really not.
And the sad thing,
he was Ringo's not the Keith Richards of the Beatles.
There is no Keith Richards. I mean, maybe John towards the end you could argue, but even the Beatles had no Keith Richards. That's what
the important thing is.
The Stones.
It was said.
Steven Tyler for that.
Yeah, exactly.
It was said repeatedly, over the course of the first 2 movies being a thing, that he based his character on, partially on Keith Richards,
because pirates were rock stars.
Yeah, so the notion of like, after saying that for so many years, bringing in Keith Richards to play Jack Sparrow's dad, that makes all the sense in the world. I can just imagine Paul, it's like, oh, someone from the States got to be in a pirate movie. I should be in a pirate movie too. I mean, the Beatles are bigger than the Stones, so, hey, Jerry Bruckheimer, I like your little tree logo. Gonna be in a pirate movie as well.
The part of Paul McCartney will be played by Luke Ski as Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah. Sober.
Ozzy Osbourne is a pirate I could see.
Yeah!
He would have made sense in that universe.
He would have made sense in that scene.
It didn't offend me, but it was clearly a state of like, oh, what? We can get Paul McCartney? Yes, absolutely. Let's get Paul McCartney. Does it make sense? No. We just want Paul McCartney to be in our movie, and so we can hang out with Paul McCartney. And I understand that. If it was one of my heroes, I'd do it too.
One other thing I actually did like in this movie, the guillotine gag.
That was
the
so
guillotine
fun.
gag
so
was that was actually really fun and creative.
That was also a good set piece.
Yeah, that was
I didn't like that mostly because it kept going.
Yeah. Okay. The build up to the actual guillotine gag was a little tiresome, but when it actually got to the thing where he's swinging and the guillotine keeps almost, that was great. That was a great touch.
Yeah. The first time, yeah.
And I feel like if they had kept a tone like that the whole movie, like they just made it a full on
silly
a full on Buster Keaton movie.
I would love
the Road to El Poseidon.
The scene that I really liked outside of that first action scene was the flashback.
Yeah, that was.
I really liked that flashback scene. That was the most emotionally compelled I have been the whole movie.
It shows you why Jack is so respected, how he can be both infamous and respected at the same time, and I think that scene worked really well.
That was a good scene.
Especially because you see that he's kept that hat with him.
He wants to be captain not because he's an arrogant, treasure-seeking, greedy bastard. he wants that camaraderie. He wants to be respected.
Well, and he
in that
wants the
way.
tributes, obviously.
Because you get the feeling that, like, as far as, like, the pirate culture, that's not something done. Like, you don't do that every time. You know, your captain does something. You do that when you genuinely respect.
You do it like we would be dead if you were not here.
The basic framework of it was already in the trailer.
Yeah.
So I already knew a scene like that existed, so I guess
if that had been kept a secret, it would
Yeah. I'm glad they didn't make, like, the whole movie an origin story, because that would have been a little much.
That would have been tedious. And why does Javier Bardem have an apple at the flashback? That's Barbossa's thing!
But I feel like Jack Sparrow was not supposed to be in this movie. Ultimately, I mean, that's the sad thing. Is like I feel like if you.
But the best scene was entirely him.
Yeah.
The best scene is entirely him. But at the same time, like if you cut him out of the movie and you just replace, and let's say that's where Barbossa comes in, the whole movie just seems like it would be way tighter.
If somehow they could have released this movie without the world knowing that Johnny Depp was in it, that would have been the best reveal ever, because they had that one dude at the beginning say, "Oh, he's dead. He's buried in the." You know, Martina, whatever it was
I
called.
saw the trailers.
Yeah, between advertising and paparazzi, there's no way they could have kept Johnny Depp's involvement a secret.
This is not Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. Yeah,
they weren't even able to keep that a secret.
I hated the scene with Will and Henry only because it's directly following the scene where Barbossa died. So it went from what was her name? Karina?
Yeah, Karina.
Karina lost her dad to sorry, honey, I got mine back.
I like the symmetry of that.
I did not get the post-credits tag that I wanted.
What was the one that you wanted?
They're doing this whole like Shadow of Davy Jones. Oh, it was just a dream. Oh, there's barnacles on the floor.
Is it?
You know, and it's like that made no sense. Davy Jones is dead just because the trident is I didn't like that. If this was meant to wrap up everything, this is what I wanted to see. I wanted to like cut to somewhere in England, super posh mansion, gold, treasure everywhere, tons of hot babes sitting up in two big chairs, Pintel and Rigetti. Where the hell were Pintel and Rigetti? We got Keira Knightley.
We got the two.
You didn't even need to give them lines of dialogue either. Just
we got the
there.
two British officers from the very first movie that are now pirates for Barbossa's crew.
Yeah.
They survived to the end. Where's Pintel Rigetti? Here's the philosophy of pirates post-credit stingers. They are not all necessarily sequel bait. Most of them do not set up a direct sequel. They either tie up a loose end or they're just a happy extra. The first one was where the monkey got a piece of the Aztec gold back from the thing, became undead monkey. Now that becomes a factor in the next movie, but they didn't think there was going to be a next movie, so that was just a little Easter egg.
And the second one
was the dog on Cannibal Island.
Yeah, getting worshipped
that
as
had
a
nothing
god.
to do with
And that was just an extra little gag.
The third one was Elizabeth with 10-year-old Henry waiting for the green flash so they could, Dad could have his visitation. And once again, they didn't think there was going to be a next one, so that was just, here's a happy little end tied up for you fangirls. Thank you. The fourth one was Penelope Cruz getting little Jack voodoo doll on her little marooned island.
Yeah, what happened to her?
Exactly! Nothing! They don't mean anything until the next movie decides that they do.
That means there's only one more thing, and that is, what's the attraction?
Arr!
Now, we all know, obviously...
This is based on attractions.
Obviously, the most iconic attraction in the world. What will they specifically add to this attraction from this movie? Haley.
From this movie. I say that they finally dredged that tunnel between the Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's haunted by Javier Bardem ghosts.
Javier Bardem? Javier Bardem. Harvey the Wonder Air Bardem.
This is not a funny joke answer, it's just what I think they're going to do. They're going to add Javier Bardem's Leven Lady! Freund Leven Bardem! With the cow thing and you're dead. They're going to put him in the Misty projection thing where you see Davy Jones and Blackbeard. They're just going to add him to that.
You got a friendo in me.
What I think would be fun is if you just have one of the conquistadors that are like firing at Barbossa and replace his voice with Javier Bardem. Or Harvey Air.
We've had 3 different pronunciations so far.
Rosen.
It's simple. The ghosts are going to invade Tom Sawyer's Isle.
Well, as usual, you're all wrong. You're always all wrong about this. Look how wrong you all are.
Why do you have us here? I'm not as good
happen. As soon as you reach the end of the ride, the whole ride building is going to disconnect and lead you on a wild goose chase around Anaheim, and then they're going to get back to the ship and all the gold will be gone.
And it ends at Knott's Berry Farm.
Yes.
In the ghost town.
Good ghosts!
And until next time, folks, they are the pirates who don't do anything. They just stay at home, lie around. And if you ask us to do anything, we'll just tell you we don't do anything. Praise Jesus.
I knew the song this time.
Praise fruit Jesus.
It's a vegetable.
Praise Jesus.
Praise vegetable Jesus.
I thought you said blessed are the cheesemakers.
Praise Harvey Air Barty.
I am Aquaman and nobody better mess with me. I may be nothing to you, but I am a king beneath the sea. Let's see you get by on the water as well as I do on the ground.
Hey, yo, you want to be good on the court? You gotta get these Harvey Air Bar jeans. Yo, look, it's a ghost.
Oh, dirty Maggie May, yeah, take your head away.
We named the cat Jack.
That's it. Worth it.
When you're a professional pirate, you're always in the best of company.
Carol, does that little dog in the Pirates of the Caribbean look real to you?